So, unfortunately, the majority of game dev students are just so clueless about the job market. And, we were too, until we learnt it the hard way. It just leaves you in such a bad position. So, we must ask, why is it that navigating the job market is not a part of the university's curriculum? So, back when I was at PAX, I went over to the university stalls to, speak to the uni students. And they were all there presenting their capstone projects, and some of them were actually really, really good. For those of you who don't know that term, the capstone project is like the final game that they do over their course. So I went by to each dev team and I asked them, so have you started applying for jobs yet? Or no, I haven't, which, is fair enough. They're still doing their course, right? I guess they're focusing on their final project and they're in busy times. So I then asked them, so what do you know about the job market? Do you know how it's like? No, they have no clue. And this is the problem. It's super important that they should know this. So the first reason being that with job market knowledge, you can actually figure out what you want to specialize in. So I'm a generalist 3D artist, and I've been doing that for about 5 years professionally. I was employed full time for 3 of those years. And then nowadays I just have some freelance work here and there. It's not enough to have like a full-time gig. It's barely even part-time if I don't say so myself. So there's nothing solid about it. So if I could go back in time, I'd probably become more of like a 3D animator or a rigger. It's just because I'm looking at hundreds of jobs per day. I'm looking at what's on LinkedIn and what's on other sites. For some reason, those jobs seem to be more of a standout compared to just like generalist 3D modeling work. Actually, and one thing, I'm just thinking about it now. If I could go back in time, I'd probably sidestep the games industry altogether. I'd probably do something like sales and marketing. It just seems to be something that's, I'm seeing that quite a bit. Even in the games industry, I'm seeing that quite a bit. But games industry aside, I do see quite a few of those roles. But let's just say, for purpose sake, I had to stick with the games industry, and particularly in art, because I just do not like programming. My brain just, it just does not work. I don't know why. Andrew, my brother, feels the complete opposite way. He doesn't really understand how the technicals of art works, but for some reason programming just clicks with him. I guess it's just how everyone is. Everyone's different, right? So yeah, I'd probably do something more animation based. It's like I said before, it's just what I see more often on these job sites. So, and also another thing, again, I'm not really going to be showing much data here. I'm just going to be going off my experiences. There's this well-known recruiter in Australia. I'm not going to give her name, but I approached her and she's helped out many people that I know. And the one question she asked me is, do you know how to rig? And the response I gave her was like, yes, I can. It's not my specialty though. And she came back saying, yeah, they need someone that really knows what they're doing. They need like the complete ins and outs. So, and that was the only available job for and that was the only available job that she had. And she is like well renowned for like setting up a lot of people in the games industry So that just mind blowing to me. She's like, yeah, unfortunately, just no one's hiring right now, which, we already know this because we've been through the crap, right? But that being said, you could ask the question, why not just learn how to rig and become an expert on it? Which, yeah, you can make the point, but then, you have the whole spend time to get good at something just for a chance of getting a job. I'm so over that, man. I'd be more than happy just to work a job where they pay for your training and you have to do something else other than games. And then you just do game work on the side. I think that's actually a strat that most of us are going to have to do in the future. I know I'm probably going to transition into that, but I reckon the majority of people are that's going to be the way that they're going to be able to survive. Work in some other industry and just do games as like a hobby. You can still take it seriously. I mean, you can still spend after work, you can spend many hours and try to make it, which I think is completely valid, by the way. But yeah, I think that's just how it's going to be. Again, I hope it's obvious that I'm giving my opinion based on my experience. There's literally no data. Like, I don't really have data for this. But that being said, there actually is one thing we can check, and you can kind of get a understanding of the proportions of jobs in games, like the different sections. So if you're a university student and you're listening, you should definitely know these websites. You should know LinkedIn, Remote Game Jobs, Seek, Hitmarker, but there's one called Work with Indies. Now, this one's pretty interesting because it's, like I said, it's not going to give definitive proof, but it's going to give you a great impression of the proportion of the types of jobs available. So have a look at this, right? So this is the website. So quite a few people know about this, but there is actually quite a few people, especially uni students, that don't. So you'll see, if you just go on the website and you just scroll down, you're gonna see every single job that's posted on this website. The beauty of this is companies have to pay $50 plus to post a job, so good chance they're gonna be pretty serious about what they want. So here we have filters. And one thing I wanna bring up, which is super brutal, is we can click for what we want, right? So I clicked audio, and this is one, I feel so bad for audio people. There's nothing. Like, I've spoken to people in my games course that's like, yeah, I would love to get into music for games and sound effects. Look, there's nothing. There's nothing on this website. To be fair, there's probably, a couple hits here and there on LinkedIn or other things. But that just shows just how brutal it is. Same with QA. I think that, there's 2 jobs for QA, and writing, there's nothing. Actually, that's another thing. I spoke to a lot of people that want to become writers in games. Like, I'm sorry, but, it would be great to know this. Why aren't the universities talking about this? Because then it'll be a great way for you to go, oh, hold on, there's nothing here. I have to pivot off this. That ends up happening naturally, but then you waste years, you're going to try go for a writing or QA job. It's just never going to happen. And then it's going to take you months after your course to upscale into something else. That being said, so programming is pretty good. So let me untick these ones just quickly. You'll see that you've got, that's quite a decent amount. And then the second most biggest one is art and animation. So we got here senior 3D animator. So that's what I was talking about before. A Roblox animator, art director. So this is a generalist role, but it's for people of seniors and veterans. So, if you just graduate, you're probably not going to get that. Environmental artist, fair enough. 3D hard surface, fair enough. 3D rigger and technical artist, so that falls sort of under the animation pipeline. Oh, it does. 2D sprite artist, fair enough. 2D UI artist, 2D art lead, so good chance you're not going to get it, and blah, blah, blah. So 3D character artist, and they're probably going to expect you to do the rigging and animation too. Let's be real. Especially because we're on indie companies here. Character artist, same sort of thing. Lighting artist, blah, blah, blah. But there's other jobs here, business and operations. Only 2. Another big one, marketing and community. That's not bad. Like if I turn them all back on, you'll see that these are the only jobs available, and it stops here. So if I go back to marketing and community, let me just unselect these. It's decent. That could be something that you could look into moving towards. It's not good enough anymore. You can't just be a games designer. You need to know either a programming style thing, or you need to do an art. That's how I basically break it down. So that's just an interesting thing. So if you're still studying, definitely check that site out and check the other sites out too. Don't just take my word for it. This is just, again, my experience. That being said, if I could go back in time, I'd probably lean into more of being like a 3D animator. And the second reason, so before I explained reason 1, so there's a second reason why you should be, looking at the job market, is the earlier you can look at the job market, is the quicker you will learn how to not get taken advantage of and exploited. And you'll be skilled in recognizing red flags, especially if you're still in uni and you don't feel like applying. Just by looking, you're giving your brain more time to look at this type of thing. So an example for that, it's going to be very obvious for the people who are familiar with my channel, but there's a thing where people are working unpaid for experience or improve your portfolio, bro. And it's just fucking bunch of bullshit. It's just trying to manipulate you into working for them unpaid, which is probably illegal. Not a lawyer, by the way, which is probably illegal. And it's just becoming it's a growing phenomenon. And I'm sick of it, and it's so bad, and hopefully we can stamp that shit out, because it's so bad for our industry. I have a whole video already, I'm going to link it up here, that talks about why it's a bad thing to work unpaid. I have like 8 reasons, and each of them are equally as important as each other, because it doesn't just screw you, it screws everyone. So with that said, what's the solution to this problem? Because whenever people are watching YouTube, especially if it's more of like a negative spin on the industry, people want a resolution. So what can we do? So it's going to depend on who you are, right? So if you're already graduated, which ironically the majority of my audience are, that's how they find me. It would be nice if more people who are still studying find me, because my goal is to prevent bad things from happening, but I guess it's seen more of as like a cure. So the best thing you can do is pivot, especially if you want to stay in the industry or even if you want to leave the industry too. You can also be a bit selfless and help everyone else. And what I mean by that is, like, if you know someone that's currently studying, if you have friends of friends or whatever, try to get your message across. Talk to them about the games industry. You know, one thing that I love about uni students is they love to listen and learn. Especially that compared to the people who are older. They love to listen and learn, and that's such a good thing. It's just a lot of them aren't able to find the right people to talk to. You know, it's pretty common where a lot of gamers, or because a lot of gamers want to become game devs, and it's a bit of a stereotype where we're technically more introverted than the average person, I would say. Not everyone's like this, but I would say that's typical. So they're not actively searching for this information. You kind of have to put in effort to go to them, which is, you know, makes sense. We're all young. In all honesty, I was like the same too. As I've been getting older, I felt like my personality has been becoming more of like an extrovert versus an introvert. That just happens with age, but that's a good thing, you know? So yeah, it'll be good if you talk to them. Seriously, it really helps our industry. I know technically you might be thinking that it might add more competition to the industry, but honestly, when you have people getting taken advantage of and when you have people that are clueless, I think it just makes it worse for everyone. And if you are a student, well then, good. Just take what I say on board and have a think about it. So let's conclude. So I also have my own individual plan for how we can help this situation. My goal is to become a guest lecturer. So that way I can go into universities and talk direct to the students, like during a lecture session where I talk to the whole cohort, just about what we do on this channel, about not how to get exploited and taken advantage of, also about the stuff that I wish I learned back when I was in uni. There is so much shit that I had to learn outside of uni. I will say universities can do a much better job at this. So the one takeaway is, please, if you know someone, encourage them to start looking at the games industry ASAP. You know, get them on LinkedIn, get them on Seek, get them on Hitmarker, get them through Work with Indies, which I showed before. Get them to take a look at it, because that's going to give you a pretty good impression for what you should do out there. All right, and that's it. Thank you for watching. Catch you later. By the way, this is my face, by the way. This is going to be the first time a lot of you see my face, which is funny. So, yeah, bye-bye. Got something to expose? Call the Spalato Bros.